Hey everybody, it's Jamie from No Getting Off This Train. In today's video, I am making 3 different breakfasts that you can put in your freezer. So how would you feel if you were able to just open up your fridge every single morning and have a breakfast ready for you to just heat up and eat? I know a lot of us are super busy and don't have a lot of time in the mornings. My husband John has to be at work at 6 a.m. and he does not really want to cook up an entire breakfast or do things that require a ton of thinking that early in the morning. And that's why I like to have breakfast prepared for all of us. That way it's just so much easier in the morning. What's even better is when you can make a huge batch of a breakfast, put it in the freezer, and that way you can eat it for a couple weeks. You could eat it for up to a month. And there are plenty of breakfast recipes that are freezer friendly. And today I'm going to show you 3 of them. So today I am making a peanut butter baked oatmeal. I am making some muffin breakfast sandwiches, and I am making some omelet cups. All the recipes are provided down in the description. I'm going to show you how to make them, and I'm going to show you exactly how to freeze them so that they do not get freezer burned. All right, let's get started with the first recipe. Let's start out with a peanut butter baked oatmeal. This is high in fiber and some good healthy fats. So it's just oats, we have salt, cinnamon, baking powder, we have an egg, vanilla, milk, honey, and peanut butter. So we'll go through it. I have the oven preheated to 375, so let's get started. So we start out by mixing together all of the dry ingredients. So this calls for 2 cups of oats. I use the old-fashioned or the rolled oats just because they have a better consistency after they're baked. I also like them because they're pretty cheap as well. They're also high in fiber, a little bit of protein, and they are heart healthy, and they can also help lower your cholesterol. And then to this, we'll add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a ½ teaspoon of salt, and a ½ teaspoon of cinnamon. So again, like I said, I like the rolled oats or the old-fashioned oats. Quick oats are okay in this. However, quick oats tend to get mushy once they bake or once you put the liquid in them, and I don't like that kind of texture, so that's why I like the rolled oats. Now we have a smaller bowl for the wet ingredients, so I've got 1 egg, and then we have a ½ cup of peanut butter. I like to buy my peanut butter from Sam's because it comes in a giant 2-pack, so this is a 40-ounce container. And I can get a 2-pack for like $8 or something like that, and it is awesome. And if you don't have or want peanut butter, you could also substitute like almond butter or any of your favorite nut butters. Next up is a 1/3 cup of honey, and you can use maple syrup instead if you wanted. Again, I get the giant one from Sam's Club for like $8. Then we have about a ½ teaspoon of vanilla, and then lastly 1½ cups of milk. If you want this to be a non-dairy version, you could use almond milk or your other favorite kind of non-dairy milk. And then we'll just whisk this together. The peanut butter may not fully mix in with it. You might have some larger chunks, and that is completely normal. So now we'll pour the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients, and then we'll mix this together. So I love making baked oatmeal for breakfast because I have pretty much all the ingredients at home at any given time, and I love how you can customize this. So I'm doing peanut butter today, but I consistently make like banana bread baked oatmeal. You could do blueberries, you could do like a mixed berry. I've done peach baked oatmeal, like it is really good. So when you're done mixing it together, it's gonna look very liquidous, just like this. And this is totally normal because the oats will absorb all of the liquid as it bakes. I made a mistake earlier. I said the oven's preheating to 375. You actually need to preheat it to 350 instead. Again, 350 degrees. So I've got a greased 8x8 casserole dish, and I will pour the entire mixture into here and then just kind of spread it out kind of evenly. And then you'll bake this in the oven for between 25 to 30 minutes. And then you'll be able to tell when it's done. It'll be kind of golden brown on top. And then we'll take a toothpick into it as well. All right, this was closer to about 30 minutes. I checked it at 25 minutes and it was still a little jiggly on top. So I'm going to take a toothpick and it is coming out pretty clean, which is good. It's also kind of firm on top, which is nice. So I like to wait for this to cool to almost room temperature before attempting to cut this, because otherwise it's going to fall apart and that is not what I want. So the baked oatmeal has cooled to room temperature. We're going to go ahead and cut them into 6 different pieces. And the way we're going to freeze this is called flash freezing. And flash freezing is when you freeze certain items on like a baking sheet where they're all spread apart so that they're all like in like a single layer. And then you freeze them that way. And then once they're completely frozen, then you can put them in a freezer bag. Because if you were to take this and just put it in a freezer bag right now, they would all freeze together in a giant clump and you wouldn't be able to get them apart. So yeah. Okay, this oatmeal is very, very soft, and different baked oatmeals will end up that way. So as you can see, I am flipping these guys upside down, and I feel like they freeze better that way just because the bottom is so soft. I don't know, maybe it doesn't even make a difference, but I don't want it to stick to the bottom. So I have a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. I have the baked oatmeal sitting on this. So I'm going to put this in the freezer overnight. Once they're completely frozen, you can then put them in a gallon-sized freezer bag, label them, whatever, and then put them back in the freezer. Next up, we have muffin sandwiches, and I love making breakfast sandwiches because, again, these are super customizable. So today, I have some multi-grain English muffins, and then I use eggs. I've got Canadian bacon today, and then I have some cheddar cheese. So in order to make these, first off, I have to bake the eggs first. And I'm going to show you my favorite way of doing that. Now, you can cook your eggs any way you want to for these sandwiches, or you don't have to use eggs at all. You could scramble up your eggs for your sandwiches. You could fry up your eggs, but I prefer using a giant muffin tin. You could use regular ones too, that's fine. However, I have found that when I cook eggs in here, it makes them flatter, but it also makes them bigger. That way they will fit more easily on these muffins. As soon as I found out this hack, I have not been able to stop. So honestly, just crack one egg into each of these muffin containers. And also, you could leave the yolks like this, or you could take a fork and just kind of gently go at it like that. I also like to season my eggs before baking them. So I'm just using just a little sprinkle of my favorite Creole seasoning that I get at Jungle Gems. It's amazing. So the oven is preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to put these in. Usually 15 minutes is good, but you may need to double check it just to make sure. But we'll start with 15 minutes, and then once these are done and cooled, we can assemble the sandwiches. Okay, 15 minutes, and these are done. So you can like wiggle it a little bit to see. You could stick a knife in it. But these are done. I am going to put these on a cooling rack real quick, and then we'll let them cool off. So yeah, pretty simple stuff here. I like to take the knife and go around the egg a little bit, and that way it'll come out nicely. And then we'll just put it on the cooling rack just like that. Now I like my eggs to be room temperature before putting them on the sandwiches, and really that's how it should be with any freezer meal. You want to make sure that everything has cooled to room temperature before putting them in the freezer. And the reason is because if there is anything else around it in the freezer, that hot food is going to make it thaw out a little bit. And then as it refreezes, it'll get like ice crystals, and it's just not fun. So yeah, thankfully, it only takes a couple of minutes for these guys to cool off, and then we can assemble the sandwiches soon afterward. My eggs have cooled off, so now we get to assemble the sandwiches. I have a small little baking pan here because I feel like it's just a lot easier to have all of them in one place. So a few substitutions. First off, I'm using whole grain muffins, and these have some extra fiber in them, which is pretty good. It also has a little bit of extra protein. So if you like the whole grain, stick with the whole grain. If you want something different, you could use just plain old English muffins. If you're more of like a sweet style person, I mean, I'm sure those cinnamon English muffins might be okay. It's kind of like the griddle sandwiches from McDonald's. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna layer some cheese and then Canadian bacon and then the egg. Sorry, so first of all, you can see the cheese here is like hanging off the edge, and that's totally fine. But the way that I am going to freeze them, I'm going to wrap them in plastic wrap, and it's just going to make the cheese like kind of fall out if it's sticking out like that. So I'm going to do one of these guys and kind of do that. That way all of the cheese stays inside the sandwich. All right, more substitutions. Cheese. I'm just using regular cheddar cheese. So if you want, you could use any of your other favorite types. Colby Jack is pretty good. I've also used pepper jack cheese with, I think, ham. Ham and pepper jack cheese, honestly, is like really good. Or you don't have to add cheese. I'm realizing now that I've got 6 sandwiches, but I only have 5 slices of cheese, and that's because Allison has been obsessed with grilled cheese sandwiches. And I've been using my breakfast muffin cheese to make her grilled cheese. So this one's not going to have any cheese on it right now. That's okay. If I grab it the morning I'm going to eat it and decide I want cheese, I can always add cheese to it. And then meat. So I've got Canadian bacon. This is going to be pretty much like the McDonald's Egg McMuffin because they use Canadian bacon in there. You don't have to use Canadian bacon. I honestly just use deli meat most of the time. So deli ham, deli turkey, even deli chicken at times, just depending on my mood. So we've got that. And I've also used like regular bacon on occasion, and that is pretty good too. So I've got enough for at least 1 slice for each sandwich. And then I'm not going to use these for anything else. So some of them will get 4, or 4. Some will get 2 slices and some will get 1. That's not a big deal. And then we have our eggs. Now, do you see how perfectly the egg fits on this sandwich? If I were to use like the regular muffin tin, it would have been like thicker and it would have been smaller. So the sandwiches would have been like a little bit taller and a little bit harder to eat. So we've got that. So then you put the egg on top. We will place the tops of the muffins on the sandwiches, and then we can wrap them. So honestly, it's really that simple. Bake eggs in the oven for 15 minutes, wait for them to cool a little bit, and then just assemble the sandwiches. There's not a whole lot of cooking involved. All right, assembling or wrapping up the sandwiches is pretty simple. I just take some plastic wrap and I use that to wrap up one of the sandwiches. So make sure it's just wrapped up really tightly. Wrap it, tuck it under the bottom, and you have a perfectly wrapped sandwich. So you can see, like if I had the cheese still like sticking out, it would have broken off and like been around here, which is totally fine because you can always put it back in the sandwich, but it makes things a whole lot neater, I guess. And then we'll just do the exact same thing for the rest of these. And if you don't want to wrap these, if you want to do something different, that's fine. What I do, or at least for the refrigerator, is I can put 2, maybe even 3 of these sandwiches in a container, just like a regular container. So if you can find a freezer-friendly container, you might be able to just put them in that way. Or if you have another special kind of wrapping that you prefer instead, that's totally fine too. And you don't even have to freeze these. Like if you are just eating these for the week, you don't have to wrap them up like this. Again, like I said, I put these in a container in the fridge and they'll last for the entire week. And then once those are wrapped, you can put them in a gallon-sized freezer bag. This will give them some extra protection, make sure they don't get like freezer burned or anything like that. And then make sure you put the date on here and then you label what it is, that way you know exactly when you put them in. So then just close it up. If you can squeeze out some of the air, that's great. But then you've got some amazing breakfast sandwiches. Our final breakfast will be omelette cups. Now I make these probably once a month or so, and I absolutely love them because they're easy to make and they're really freezer friendly. So first off, we have 8 eggs, and then we have some cottage cheese for extra protein. We have spinach, which is going to give us some extra nutrients, and a vegetable. I have shredded cheddar, some Creole seasoning, which is my favorite, and then we have some milk. Now we get to throw everything in the blender, which makes it so easy. Here's the great thing about omelet cups, that these are extremely customizable. So you've got the eggs and the milk, and that's pretty standard. Like you would obviously use those in all of them. But you could change out the types of vegetables you're using. I've also used bell peppers in this. I've used mushrooms, so they're all really good. And the great thing about using the blender is, like, especially with vegetables, it gets them really like chopped finely, or even like blends it all in. So yeah, if you blend it all in like that, this might turn a weird color, but that's okay. So that was 8 eggs. Next, we're going to add a ½ cup of milk. And then we have 1 cup of cottage cheese. So you don't have to add cottage cheese to it, but I've recently started doing this and it has made a huge difference. It makes these a lot creamier. And if you don't like the consistency of cottage cheese, like run it through the blender just like this. It's no longer chunky and you can't even tell that it's in there. Next, we have a 1/3 cup of cheese. I am using cheddar, but I've also used feta in this before, and yeah, that's like a game changer. It was really good. You could really add whatever kind of cheese you want. And then I have my favorite Creole seasoning from Jungle Gems. You could add whatever you want. Garlic powder and onion powder are pretty standard. Salt and pepper, obviously. Really just whatever you want. I know that garlic powder and onion powder are pretty much the standard. And then I'm just gonna add a big old handful or 2 of spinach. And then from here, I like to just pulse it until it's done. All right. Yes, as you can see, it does turn kind of a green color from the spinach, but I promise you it tastes amazing. Now I've got my muffin tin lined with my silicone muffin liners. Super easy cleanup. Now I am going to use a 4th cup here because the last time I tried to like pour it in from the blender, I made a huge mess. I will probably still end up making a huge mess, but maybe it'll be a little more controlled. I don't know. So as you can see, this is very, very liquidous, and it is supposed to be, see, look, I'm making a mess. And look, it's seeping down in there. I'm gonna have to really scrub it. Oh well. Anyway, let me see if I can pour. Oh, there we go. Okay, that does help. Never mind. All right, I'm gonna pour it. Okay, so what was I saying? Okay, yeah, these are very liquidous, which is fine. They're supposed to be that way. They will definitely settle and set once they're baking. You know, they kind of remind me of like those Starbucks egg bites, you know what I mean? They turn out that way and they are really good. Let me just clean up my mess here. So the oven is preheated to 350 degrees. We're gonna bake these for between 15 to 20 minutes. I know that's kind of a wide range. With these silicone muffin liners, I have found that they need a little bit of extra time to bake. So it's probably going to be more like 20 minutes. So I will carefully put these guys in, and then we'll see how long it actually takes. So just like the baked oatmeal, we're going to flash freeze these omelette cups, which means that we're going to put them on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, just like this. And then we're going to put them in the freezer to let them freeze individually like this. Now these are still slightly warm, so I want to make sure that these cool to room temperature before putting in the freezer. Again, that's because if you put these in while they're still warm, the other things in the freezer will start to thaw out and then like crystallize after they refreeze, and we don't want that. So once these are completely frozen, just like the baked oatmeal, put them in a gallon size freezer bag. Just use a marker to label with the date and then the name of the recipe, and then you're good to go. I love how easy these recipes are, and I love how you can double or even triple the recipe and you can eat it for like a month or two. So once again, these freezer meals stay fresh for up to 3 months in the freezer. They are still safe to eat after that, but the longer they're in there, the bigger chance they have of getting freezer burn. These 3 recipes are in the description below, so make sure you check those out. If you're also looking for something just a little bit extra, I also have a breakfast freezer meal guide that has like 20 different breakfast recipes, the entire ingredient list, cost breakdown, nutrition info, and it has an entire grocery list if you just wanted to make all these breakfasts like at once. I don't recommend it, but it's there for you. It also gives you step-by-step instructions on how to freeze all of them. Those are all tried and true recipes that my family loves. And that is linked below too if you want to check that out in my shop. I hope these 3 recipes gave you some inspiration to make your own freezer meals and make your mornings so much easier. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you later. Are you looking for easy dinners to feed your busy family? Click the link in the description to grab a free recipe book with 10 simple and delicious dinners that my family loves. Download it now and tell me what you think.